Hi, I'm Laura.
Hey, I'm Stefan, and you're listening to Attributed, a podcast library by Dream Data.
The purpose of it is to store and share all the knowledge that we have gathered across Dream Data employees through our LinkedIn Lives, podcasts, and webinars.
The typical topics you'll find here can be stuff like marketing,
Sales,
B2B ads,
operations.
social selling maybe.
Hey, Katie, it's such a pleasure to have you on the live. The fun thing is, we have never met, but our paths has crossed in the various events, and we still have not met live. This have to be fixed at one of the times. It's such a pleasure to have you on our LinkedIn Live. Katie, could you give us an introduction of yourself to our audience? And besides just talking about B2B, I also want to know, what are you working on the other side before we dig into everything B2B that the audience is coming here for?
It all comes back to B2B. I can't escape it no matter how much I want to. Laura, I'm not convinced that you're not a hologram. Okay. In the digital world, till I meet you in person, can anyone out here in the chat please comment if you've actually met Laura in real life? I think you and I were at the same event recently with LinkedIn, but I cannot verify that. So until we are in person, I'm just going to think that you are a holographic
That's correct.
brand. But you are somebody that I followed for years on the internet, which is so strange because I feel like I know you. When you told me in prep that we hadn't met, I was like, oh, right.
Yep.
Huh. Forgot about that. Well, hi everyone. Thanks for having me on your podcast. You guys do a great job. Shout out to Dream Data. This is a great show. You've had some of my favorite voices in B2B on the show. Honored, humbled, delighted to be among them. And thanks for everyone watching. I'm sure there's like a handful of you out here right now with us. So thanks for spending some time. My name's Katie Martell. If you don't know me, it's because you haven't been subject to my LinkedIn posts over the past 15 years where I've just been spamming LinkedIn. These days it's called influencer marketing. So I have lots and lots of followers.
Creator.
What's that?
Creator nowadays.
I am a creator. No, I'm a marketer by trade. I'm a B2B marketer, born and kind of raised, started my career in B2B marketing to other marketers, which has given me a very interesting, I called it like the world's fastest MBA in marketing, because you are literally marketing to people that are doing your job. And forced you very early in my career to get really good at it, break through skepticism, do some cool stuff, and try to, I was coming into B2B around 2009, 2008. So you can imagine the way it's been changing ever since. I've been part of the groundswell of MarTech. I've worked for some of your favorite MarTech brands. I've probably ghostwritten a lot of the MarTech blogs that you have loved from some of your favorite MarTech founders over the years. And these days I get to work with a number of companies in B2B and beyond. And I'm sure we'll get into that, but really delighted to be here. So thanks for giving me a chance to chat.
Thank you so much. And you still did not tell what you're doing outside of B2B, which is very exciting for all the marketers who are probably marketing to either salespeople or marketers, most of them. And then you go outside of some of the other techs, selling to other people. What do you do besides B2B?
Outside of B2B, my passion for marketing really started in psychology and anthropology. And marketing is kind of a ubiquitous force in our world, whether it's B2B or consumer-faced marketing. And I have been keenly kind of aware of how it's all around us all of the time, and very interested in what that does to us as a people, as a society, as a world. And so one of my big passions that many people know me on the internet for is looking at the impact of our industry, not just in B2B, but advertising writ large, social media at large, on society, whether that be how companies pander to social movements. I have a body of work around that. Whether companies are looking to treat their employees differently. We're coming into a new age of employee activism, which is really interesting to me. That's part of it. One of my big passions, though, is how advertising and these days influencer marketing, et cetera, kind of bleeds into the other problems facing society. So I'm thrilled to share, maybe this is the first time people hear about it, but you'll hear a lot from me over the next few months on this, that I'm working with the team behind Killing Us Softly, which is a groundbreaking film series from Jean Kilbourne. She was the first to look at how advertising has affected women back in the 70s. I'm talking like 1979. She was the first to talk about how advertising objectifies women, dehumanizes women, the impacts of advertising that we're all familiar with. She's on 4 versions of that film, Killing Us Softly, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I'm so delighted to share that we will be working on a Killing Us Softly 5, which looks at the way that social media, think influencers, think filters, AI, which we're going to talk about today, affects people, how we see ourselves and the world around us, violence against women, et cetera, et cetera. So we'll be absolutely so thrilled to share that when it's working. But right now, we are working on collecting insights. So go to my profile if you're interested in being part of this film. I'm just going to, Laura, sorry, shamelessly promote this project now. We're collecting
Oh,
survey feedback. We'd love you to watch Killing Us Softly 4, which released in 2010. And we'd love to hear what should be in 5. So there's a survey out right now. You can be part of focus groups. I'm really interested in talking to consumers and marketers about how advertising in the age of social media has affected society. So that's a plug of what I'm working on outside of the world of B2B. But as you and I both know, there's a lot of fun to be had in B2B. So
it is, but it's a lot of fun with the movie as well. I have seen 4, and I did not contribute to the video, to your survey yet. So that's what I'm going to do. And everybody else, you should watch it. We're talking marketing right now, and yes, there's a lot of bias, and we can be a part of breaking that barrier as well. I'm so excited. This is a project of like, when somebody asks me, what's the reason, what's your why working in where you're working? I
that's
can hear
why.
that
That's
in the
what
voice.
attracts me to marketing. It's what makes me so interested in B2B because it's now changing in a world of digital. And I get to be a lucky student of it. I get hired as a quote influencer, as you do, a creator. I look at it like a glorified like correspondent. I basically get to sit in the role of somebody who's in the industry, but a little bit outside of it. And as a speaker over
Nice.
the last 15 years, as a writer, I've written books, give talks. I'm just so interested in how it's changing. So that's why I'm thrilled to be here today. But it's definitely a field that attracts some really creative, some really empathetic people. And yet we still have to be really honest about its impact. We have to be willing to look at the hard truths about our industry, and we have to be willing to understand as consumers how we are affected by it. A lot of us like to think we're not affected or influenced by advertising, and yet we are surrounded by it. So even those of us in the industry, it's a clarion call for us to be more aware of the power of what we do. Again, whether it's hiring an influencer, promoting a weight loss drug, playing with filters, or perpetuating different biases. I mean, we have a lot that we can, I think, learn if we stop and think
Nice.
critically.
Exactly. We can continue talking about
All
this
day,
topic
all
forever
day, but
because
I
I
won't. Don't worry. Don't worry.
moved into New York from Europe, and just the difference of advertisement in here is
Interesting.
insane.
Wait,
But
how
this is
so? I
not
want
the
to know. I
topic
want
for
to know. I want to
today.
know. I want to know. Tell me how, real quick.
So before we get like, the biggest thing for me was there are so many drug advertisement in the
Yes.
US. I've never seen a single drug advertisement in Europe before.
Hmm.
And that but like, why? Because you go to the doctor and the doctor tells you what you need to get, and then you go to the pharmacy and then you get it. But yeah, so
Interesting, huh? To look at kind
let's get into
let's get
B2B
into B2B,
now.
but anyone who wants to talk about this anytime, happy to.
We're gonna stay offline and you can join the
Exactly.
group to discuss this
Exactly.
after this. All right. So we're talking B2B trust crisis and AI impact. And this is the topic for today because we started when I joined Dream Data, which is 5 years ago.
Already?
The topic was
What?
already,
Wow.
yeah,
Wow.
imagine. The topic was already on marketers' lips. It's like, oh, B2B is just so the same, so boring. B2C is so much more fun to do marketing for B2Cs. So, how did we get into this trust crisis and what is happening? So, tell me the prehistory of that because you have been looking into this for longer than I
I
have.
have definitely been fascinated by trust, but it's just one of so many elements that goes into great B2B, marketing. I think in prepping for today, chatting about the trust crisis, there are kind of two layers of it. And I do think it's important to back out and go to the 10,000-foot level before you talk about B2B specifically. So just humor me, dear listeners, for a minute as we do expand a bit, because marketing, a lot of marketers suffer from kind of this idea that we market on an island, especially in B2B. We think, oh, what we do is different from what all marketing does, or different from, disconnected from the kind of world around us. Again, we're insulated by companies, we're insulated by job titles and rational decision making. And you know where I'm getting with this. It doesn't work that way. But so we have to look at the fact that today we are living in like a post-truth era. I don't think that's too controversial of a fact to say, but it's kind of this moment in time. I mean, we are in 2025. So when you joined in 2020, this is pre-pandemic. Pandemic itself, which I think all of us are still trying to figure out what the impacts of that have been, wrecked the public's trust in institutions, whether it be government, whether it be media, whether it be scientists, right? This is now we're kind of post-pandemic looking back and realizing, oh wow, we have a massive crisis in terms of who people trust and not. Misinformation is everywhere. That's the kind of, word of the century, word of the decade for sure. Certainly since our current president took office. It's been the kind of normalized acceptance of what's true, what's not. If the president of the United States can lie, what does that mean for everybody else? You really have to take what we do in marketing in context with the rest of the world. And these are just simple facts. These are simple, nonpartisan, facts. And so now we have this era of mistruth, post-truth. No one is sure if the news articles they're reading are real, if the posts they're seeing on social media are real. We have a huge crisis in where Americans, for example, turn to when it comes to news sources. It's a fractured landscape. We don't know who to trust. And that has led us to kind of these camps, right? Of I listen to this media or I listen to that media because it echoes my worldview. And it's this that's how we're getting our facts, our information about the world, and therefore our information about ourselves. You go in the rabbit hole of YouTube, you get on the rabbit hole of how younger generations are educating themselves about the world around them, and you see some really troubling, non-trustworthy sources of insight. That's where we're marketing into. We can't think like we're not marketing into this world. And now that all of us have AI, which I know is really what we all want to talk about, or not, I'm seeing a lot of posts that are like, please stop talking about AI. And I'm like,
Yep.
no, we're never going to stop talking about it. But it's now leading to this place in this world where all of us are aware of how easy it is to create misinformation, to create fake reviews, fake content, synthetic content, And so everyone was already skeptical coming into a buying decision, especially in the world of B2B, which we'll get into. But also, they're also coming in distrusting everything a brand says and does because of the brand's role in this misinformation crisis. So a lot of my work outside of B2B focuses on how brands pander to social movements, say one thing and do another. And this is like not new to any consumer. And so many brands have had this kind of like, data breach or said one thing and did another, or some kind of massive scandal that has made all buyers, no matter what industry you're in, inherently skeptical of a brand's claim. It is like the lowest whenever there's studies about what does a buyer trust from their buying process. Our materials, our branded materials are the lowest trusted source. And we know this. We know this. We might obsess over the positioning on our homepage or the wording in our product sheets. But at the end of the day, I'm sorry, marketers, they matter, right? They matter. Let's be honest. A lot of people listening to this going, I do that for a living. What our buyers care about is more in line with this inherent rise in distrust everywhere. They are starting every sales conversation, if they're even ever talking to your salesperson, with a sense of mistrust. They're going to go find their information elsewhere. They're going to, how it used to be trust but verify? Now it's just don't trust and always verify. Nobody trusts anybody anymore. And when you're buying, this relationship is automatically starting from a place of mistrust. That is where every single brand begins the buying process. You know it as well as I do.
Interesting. I do. I'm in sales. So that's definitely that. And we can talk forever about this. I'm so excited. So for marketers, if we are starting from a place of distrust, because what everything that has been happening historically, so how can you as a B2B marketer get that type of impact? Because you are pressured to get more content out, to perform on ads and all the top of funnel, whatever funnels you're talking about. And then at the end of the day, you're delivering leads to sales that don't actually trust you anyway. So, so
You know,
walk me through the process of what marketers in B2B can do to start gaining
girl,
that
there's a
trust.
lot. And this is not something to be answered on a podcast. So if you're listening to this on demand later going, how do I do this? Listen, this is like the core of what we do as marketing. This is not something that like there are tricks for and tips for. You mentioned something really interesting, which is this crater of trust between marketing and sales. And I think we should start there because the buyer doesn't experience that buying journey in a vacuum. They're affected. It's like when your parents are fighting, every kid is affected by that. It's like mom and dad are fighting, marketing and sales are fighting. Like it is so obvious when the marketing promises, the brand promises don't line up with the sales experience. And that gets even worse when that doesn't line up with the product experience. I mean, let's be honest. So many companies operate in these silos, right? And that's the first step to mistrust is when marketing is saying one thing. As soon as somebody actually talks to a sales team the kind of that part of the sales process where they're actually conversing with somebody, it often sounds disjointed. Often it's like talking to two different organizations, because marketing and sales haven't taken the time to get together on it. But I think also too, marketing over the past, like again, I came of age, I like to say, in the era when MarTech was just blowing up. So I'll give you like, I live in Boston. Prior to jumping on, we were talking about inbound. HubSpot was like a brand new company when I started in this world. And I'm really grateful for that moment that I got to join this industry because I got to watch as marketers switched from outbound tactics to inbound, as marketers started to learn about attracting people through content. And then we would, of course, buy the latest marketing automation technology to then score and nurture those leads and then hand sales a perfectly ready to buy buyer, right? Like this is the world in which I've been marketing my whole career.
Yep.
But I think some of these tactics have actually led us to this trust problem. Most of our
Mhm.
buyers want to do their own research. That has led to a rise in marketers creating oodles of content. And now they're using AI to create that content so that buyers have plenty of content at their disposal. We're forgetting that like content appetite is tiny. They might want
Mhm.
information, but the amount of information that our buyers are getting in the world around us. Look at how many things that, we're doing right this minute. You're watching this video, you're probably doing four other things. You got email going off. We have a live hello from Brazil and people in Sweden and Albania in the chat. It's what's called continuous partial attention. Nobody has time to focus. And so marketers have dumped a ton of content well beyond the consumption limits of our buyers for years now. This was a problem I was talking about on stages in, I don't know, 2015, 10 years ago, right? And so we're absolutely dumping the market full of all this content, but it's not the content that buyers actually use in their purchase decision. They look at our content with skepticism. All of our content that has our logo on it is met inherently with skepticism. That's not a controversial
Mhm.
stat. So what are we doing to counter that? That's where the age of, yes, all the old school tactics that you and me both love, clearly, thought leadership. This is where third
Mhm.
party voices come into play. This is where social proof comes into play. I think a lot of time we in B2B forget just how scary it is for a buyer to make a purchase. These are not like risk driven people. These are risk averse
Yeah.
people. These are absolutely people who are making a decision about an enterprise tech subscription or a wholesale replacement of equipment or, multi-departmental touching software. This is big stakes. This is somebody's job on the line. And so everything we do is not only met with skepticism, but we have to fight this risk averse motion that every buyer in B2B sits in. Everything we do has to be about earning their trust, telling them that it's not us, don't listen to me, don't take my word for it. Here is peer reviews. Here is a customer community that you can go talk to. I think it's very powerful. A lot of companies that
Yeah.
can convene their customers around a certain problem tend to be the ones that can navigate the changing waters, especially here in MarTech, when you can build a community around a software tool. It's basically just about helping everyone in that community navigate the challenges in their job, in their road ahead. That builds trust. And I think when we're looking at vendors, we don't give a damn what the vendor is saying. We're going to ChatGPT now to build vendor shortlists. Those vendor shortlists with ChatGPT are looking at reputable sources, press, analysts. They're looking already at the things that we've always used in marketing to drive trust, third party endorsements. Although even analysts, I think, are getting less effective. Younger
Yeah.
buyers are not counting them in their top sources of insight. Certainly experts, but I don't think an analyst and an expert are necessarily seen as the same thing anymore. Am I right in saying this? And I'd
Mhm.
love to hear if viewers, if you're watching this, mom, if you're watching, please let me know if analysts are still carry the clout that they used to, because younger buyers see them as pay to play. Yeah,
Exactly.
it's yeah.
It is. I used to work
Yeah,
at
we all
Gartner.
we all had a stint at an
And
analyst firm. Mine was Aberdeen Group, girl. I got you. Yep.
there you go. And the shift, you can already see that. Even especially when you move into more tech and smaller startups, it's like, no, no, I don't need to pay for this. I go to communities and I'll ask because I'll find experts over there, not somebody who's paid by another company to buy a subscription. So that's
Peer
that's
like me,
absolutely
a
right.
peer like me. That's who we trust. You and I are part of the
Yeah.
LinkedIn kind of marketing cohort, and they have some new research out. I have it actually somewhere. Let me pull it up while I'm talking to you. So I don't let me not misquote LinkedIn here, but I actually don't have it in front of me.
Nice.
They said something, let me misquote it here. And if I do, I apologize. We'll fix it in the show notes. But they were saying that younger buyers, which by the way are like 70% of the buying process, are quote younger buyers now. Those of us in the millennial generation are like, ooh, we're still young. Thanks. All of us are pushing 40. Like, oh, are we like Gen Z? Cool. But it's true where younger buyers are increasingly turning to social media, turning to each other. But most importantly, they're turning to like this like anyone who's not paid to say something nice. Influencers are technically part of that, but we are all paid to say nice things about the brands that we are hired
Yeah.
by. So it comes down to the people that use your tool, the people that have benefited from your way of thinking and their ability to go out and evangelize for you. And this is nothing new in marketing. I mean, one of your co-founders was at Trust Radius, right, back in the day. And that's the beginning of the online review world. Even those can be faked. So even those are losing, sorry, Trust Radius, even those are losing their appeal. But in B2B, the companies that lead with references and that lead with an opportunity for buyers to de-risk the situation are the ones that are earning the opportunity to continue in the sales process. I think startups have a really hard climb these days. You know what I'm saying? I come from the world of startups. Dude, the consideration set, no matter what industry you're in, is enormous. There are just more options. I mean, look at MarTech alone. When I was young, there were 150 companies on the Scott Brinker MarTech landscape, 150 different companies competing for my share of wallet when I was in-house marketing to a CMO's budget, right? And by the way, I started my career in the list industry, the list business. Talk about the least trusted, the most sketchy, right? But it's a business that you actually learn very quickly underpins a lot of motions and continues to this day to be one of the most critical components of
Yep.
marketing. And no one wants to talk about it. But back when I was there, we were competing against every other thing that a marketer could spend their budget on. And we won against some really sketchy players. I'm talking like, hey, I'm a vendor in, some country and I'm going to sell you a 10,000 business decision makers. Like, who among us has not gotten that pitch? This was my industry. We knew that the only way to build trust as a startup in that industry was to just be the most likable, transparent. And I know this sounds so cliche, but we really we put our faces on the homepage. We were the only data company to put the faces of our executives on the homepage. And this was on purpose because in that world of nameless, faceless data brokers, we were out there saying our company can be trusted because we are the ones that are willing to stand behind what we're saying.
Yeah.
Our data is clean, it's accurate, da 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 da. It set us apart. That was our differentiator at the time, and we worked. We were the David against some really huge Goliaths, and we beat them. We actually did some really great deals head to head against companies, matched them on price, and still won because people liked our brand. They liked that we brought them into a little community. I don't know if a MarTech brand could do that today as effortlessly. There are now something like 15,000 companies on that chart, on that MarTech landscape. And if you're a buyer, nobody is trustworthy. Absolutely nobody, because you've never heard of most of them. And so I feel for a lot of
Exactly.
marketers, coming up in this world now.
So you're saying already back
Mhm.
then, putting faces to the company by marketing, putting them on the website, doing, I don't know, videos with other clients gives you trust as a buyer. So marketers nowadays, what can they do exactly to be able to build that type of trust? So content is great. It does work on search. It
Mhm.
still appears on the AI searches
Mhm.
as well. But if you're met with that type of criticism after you've built all that content, because that's where you focus, beautiful colors, amazing content, we've got everything on our website, all the questions are answered, all of the tricks in the books for comparisons of other competitors and so on is
Mhm.
done. But how do I build the trust that that type of client who comes in is like, I think I trust him. And I think I'm trust them with my money and my career because I'm buying something for the whole either
Yeah.
team or organization. What
You're
should
bringing
they
up a
do?
really interesting point, and I just want to pull up do you know the elements of value? Have we seen
Show me.
this? If you're watching this later, look in the show notes, and I promise, Laura, that I'll send you a link to this. This came out like 2018, just around the time I think that your company was founded. It basically was from Harvard Business Review and Bain, and they did this study that was all about the elements of value. If you look up HBR, elements of value, B2B, you're going to find this like Maslow hierarchy of need pyramid. And at the bottom of it are essential like table stakes to doing business. You've got things like, does the product meet my specifications? Is it an acceptable
Mhm.
price? Is it regulatory and compliant within my industry and does it meet ethical standards? Right? These are like the baseline before you start differentiating higher and higher up this perceived value. Those four things are actually extremely important. And I think a lot of B2B companies don't put enough transparency into the process. Like I know with enterprise organizations, you cannot give out pricing on a homepage or a website. That's not what I'm
Mhm.
saying. What I'm saying is, do you make it easy for a buyer to figure out where and what ballpark you're in as they're building their shortlist. A lot
Yeah.
of companies gate those conversations. They want you to talk to a salesperson. That's fine too. But they really make it difficult. They make you jump through hoops when you're really just building your shortlist and maybe not even ready to buy. And so I think that tools like pricing calculators, I think tools like that we typically see in the sales process are increasingly going to be used earlier as a way of establishing that transparency up front. Same with these other value elements like meeting specifications or regulatory compliance. These are the things that buyers need to check off first before they even start downloading more content or
Yes.
start getting into a conversation. It's kind of like if we can't do business, we can't do business because of these four things, right? As you meet those needs and start to move up this pyramid, it becomes more about functional value, like economic value. Is this going to reduce my cost? Is this going to help me make more money?
Right.
Is the product of good quality? Does it scale? Is this company innovative? These are things and questions that I think our marketing can answer with a little bit of effort. We like to say a lot. We need to show more. Does that make sense? We like to say we're the
Yep.
leading best in class, this and that. But I think
Mhm.
in this day and age, we just have to show it. We have to show it through, different it depends what industry you're in. I mean, if you're in like, commercial refrigeration, you can't exactly do a free trial. You know what I'm saying? But you do have to really show that you understand these very basic table stake needs of buyers. I find that a lot of us have gotten caught in the framework of changing the world of our buyers when we're really not. It's B2B. What we're trying to do is help them solve problems that they don't even know that they have quite yet and can't really articulate. The key to B2B, as far as I've been in the industry, is somebody else, a vendor, saying the words that we didn't really have words for. I call them exceptional truths. If you can say the things that your buyers are thinking, but no one is saying to them, honestly, you've got an advantage. You've got a trusted advantage. This is where content can really be effective when it's challenging an accepted truth among your buyers, when it's starting to push them in new directions, or when it's causing them to go, ooh, my existing way of solving this problem, there are holes in this. You're not coming in and saying
Mhm.
everything you're doing is wrong. No one likes to tell about, no one likes to buy in a situation in which they've been told, hey, you're wrong. So this is a careful thing we do in marketing. We have to help them understand that there's a gap. There's a gap in what's possible and there's a gap in the way they're doing things today. It's it's what most companies kind of fail on is they kind of look a lot like existing solutions or right. We have to be willing to push our messaging to the point where we're creating a little friction with the way that a buyer is doing business today. That can be a little scary. But you and I both know that some of the best companies are able to come in and say, actually, the way that you're doing things today, you really got to be thinking different about it if you're going to future proof yourself. There was like in the world of sustainability, right? And in B2B, there was 10 years ago, it was less of a focus for organizations. It was really not like, so I'm thinking, I don't know why I'm stuck on this refrigerant and cooling organization that I helped with, but it was this like non-sexy industry. The companies were not thinking about sustainability when they were making these choices. This client needed to again, nudge their thinking towards essentially a different criteria. They weren't shopping
Yeah.
based on sustainability. So this vendor had to really be persistent and clear about the fact that this was going to be something they had to think about 10 years from now. And a lot of us can't
Yeah.
predict that in B2B, but in some industries you can. Because in some cases, these are long sales cycles with long, product implementations. We can get ahead 5 years. We can understand what's going to happen. We need to be more willing to, I think, show our expertise in that area. This is different than thought leadership. This is very much about helping a buyer understand that what's available to them in the future is more broadening their horizons a bit. Does that make sense? I feel like I'm rambling, but
It does. It does. And we're in this shift. It's not even a shift. It has just been ongoing all the time. So far, it sounds like it's a big part of messaging that comes out from the sales
Mhm.
teams. So, would you be more towards saying that marketers should be helping out the sales teams even more with messaging, how are we speaking and so on, rather than created static content or even videos and stuff for them to trust us, but like it's bleeding into when we speak one on one or when we speak in communities. So how does that type of shift move marketers to the way they're working at the moment and in the
I
future?
I think that remember the years where sales and marketing alignment was the buzzword? Like, what happened? Why did we stop talking about that? Remember, I think AI
Yeah.
is our current buzzword. They last about 18 months, right? The Gartner hype cycle, right? We're just, I remember when SOMO low was the big thing, social, mobile, and local. Do you remember? Like, the marketing industry has these like cycles of hype. Sales and marketing alignment was a hype cycle. I wish we would go back. hype cycle. Maybe somebody here can rebrand it and make it the new thing, because this is something that most organizations continue to struggle with. But to answer your question, and again, I come from the world of content. I come from the world of comms. I come from everything with the world of like PR, and it's not sales, but I come from smaller organizations, and the companies that I consulted with when I was consulting were smaller organizations where we could like go sit with salespeople and be like, "Hey, how you doing? Hey, so here's all the content we did. What are you using?" And I remember hearing from a lot, like I would do this with a company in commercial real estate, very tech laggard type organization. This is the kind of, buyers who, you've got guys in suits who own the building, and you've got guys in overalls who are like with clipboards, like managing the HVAC. That was our buyer. We had to kind of navigate both. And in conversations, the sales team was talking to the guys in suits. And one of the things that just they kept going back to, like, I made this asset, I want to say 1 year, and it was used as the top asset for like 4 years, despite all of us creating a ton more assets underneath it. The reason was it was this kind of, it was just a survey, nothing new. It was kind of this opportunity for organizations to benchmark themselves against their peers, right? We've all kind of done that, but we really need to do more of it. It gave sales an opportunity to have a conversation with a buyer that was a lot more based in this idea of trust. Let me show you what your peers are doing in this world of tech adoption, and let me show you where you stand against them. It had nothing to do with the vendor specifically. We were kind of just the conduit for this comparison between, again, a buyer and their peers. I think brands have to remove themselves a little bit from the equation and allow this peer-to-peer sense of camaraderie and collaboration and verification to happen. And that's really hard for a lot of brands to take themselves out of. It's when we have like a user conference and we let them talk to each other. We're terrified of what they might say, right? That's where we get magic. When you can be the conduit for your brand and your buyers, the way that you do with this podcast. You bring people like me in. I bring people that know me into the Dream Data world. I'm now in the Dream Data world. Who knows what will happen, but you yourself are selling absolutely nothing on this call. It's been 33 minutes. And we haven't talked about attribution once.
I'm going to.
The strategy, and it matters. And it matters because you show up in a way that feels like you're not selling anything. Now I feel like we're just talking about, this is advice from the year 2000, but it still matters. One company that I will say, I really, because a lot of our examples tend to be smaller organizations. Commercial real estate, that was a much bigger firm, but I work with Adobe, and they have an Adobe for business unit. And if you have come up in MarTech, you know about Marketo, which is now part of Adobe. Actually, Visible, who it was a competitor of Dream Data, is now part of Marketo, which is now part of Adobe, right? This is kind of one of the consolidation arms of MarTech over the past 10 years. And I've been really interested to see how Marketo and all these other tools that have now been built into the Adobe Experience Cloud suite, I've been interested to see how that the community had sustained, because Marketo was known for like Marketing Nation and bringing together the best of the best. And I was lucky to be part of those efforts, back in 2017, 2018. Nowadays, I'm really proud. I will say, because I'm also now part of the efforts at Adobe to cultivate this community. They do a wonderful job, Adobe for Business, with their customer community. They have these customer champion groups. They've got this wonderful user group infrastructure. And it's a pretty small team, actually, who's running all of this across the globe. And what it does for Adobe is it allows for them to be, again, that conduit for buyers to talk to each other. I get to sit down with a lot of their marquee award-winning customers. They have the great award program called the Adobe Experience Maker Awards. It's like the Oscars of digital experience. They go all out to showcase their gratitude, but also this idea of celebration behind what their customers do. I get to sit down with them, and we do content about not the tech, but what was the tech for? How did you use it to create change? What did it do for your teams? Nice. What was the culture around the business that led to this? And what will it do for your customers moving forward? And it's these conversations that are like the most obsessed people. They love what they do. They're good at it. They're also doing it in a world where there's not a lot of blueprints. So you have a lot of people just like them in digital marketing and optimization and customer experience management who are looking for answers. And Adobe is the tech, right? The platform, but then all of this content and all these activities, and it's all about the customer connecting with other customers like them, sharing the why behind what they do, the tricks, the tips, the things that help them establish their role in the digital marketing ecosystem, which, as you know, sorry, I'm rambling. You got me on a
good.
You know as well as I do that our jobs are changing constantly. And yes, whoever that did, thank you. Elements of value, you got it there. Hey, that was actually the consumer one. We have a link in the chat from Zdenka. Thank you. That's the consumer one. Please look for the B2B one. There is a separate one about B2B that I think is very important. It's called the B2B. Hold on.
We'll find it. We'll add it to the
Here,
show.
Laura, it's in the chat. Verge, here, go drop it into the thing. Check it out. It's great. It really shows where you can start to differentiate. So if you take nothing else away from this broadcast, go look at that article. But last thing I'll just say about Adobe is that they really do a good job highlighting what a career catalyst the platform is. In other words, what it's done for the careers of their users. And I think more of us can leverage that when our, and this goes back to the elements of value, when our products can actually help somebody's career, their network expansion, who they're meeting at our conferences, their marketability, how now valuable they are in this industry, and their reputation, we've got it there. That's where we need to start focusing our elements of value in marketing.
Absolutely. Absolutely agree. And it's such a in those long customer journeys, you have to drop in places where marketers are actually not just taking decisions about am I buying this product or this product because they're competing, but in general, you are in a fight for their attention to first of all notice that you are a company that actually understands me. And then as soon as the problem comes up, then we will be able to talk with this product and this product together. But you are in the same group of the like, are we going to take this as a priority as well? Katie, I want to shift our conversation towards AI because we started with, oh, everything is the same. We're in a trust crisis, and but everybody's still using AI to get faster, to get bigger, to do things first before everybody else because we're measured on those small, quick sprints. But where can marketers do you see can still use AI to not just do things of the same type, but just a little faster, but become those good marketers that their buyers start trusting? So, where would you see AI giving that type of impact nowadays?
It's a good question that we're all still trying to get the answers to. I'd be lying if I said I knew how AI was going to reshape or how marketers are using it today. I can tell you what I have seen. I can tell you my experience, but I encourage everyone here to, how do I say this gently? Like, stop looking for answers because they're not there.
Yeah.
We are in this beginning phase of, AI's funny 'cause AI's been in our lives for a very long time. Siri has been based on AI. Amazon's recommendation engines and are AI. Netflix is, you watch this and so you might want to watch this, or AI. And no one seems to have had a problem with it until it has now become the thing that, again, investors are investing in. We have a boom around companies, dot AI everywhere. It's not a read, by the way. It's just what happens. Markets naturally follow energy, and energy right now is being poured into AI, and for good reason. It's got to be transformative technology. In marketing, it's a very interesting tool. I came back recently from a Salesforce Connections conference. It was in Chicago in June, and they were all about agentic AI. And transparently, I was paid to be there and talk about it, and they're not paying me to say anything here. This is my like unabashed point of view. But agentic AI is really interesting. So if generative AI is when you are creating something, an image, creating a paragraph, or maybe a whole essay, or maybe a whole white paper. I'm not judging anyone, but I've seen it done. Stop that, by the way. It's not good. It's not good stuff. It's derivative. Period.
Nobody likes
It's derivative. Can we just say that? Like, when people are asking, why don't I just use AI to draft everything? Because it sounds like everything else. Okay, you want to send more of the same stuff into the market? Go for it. It's not going to do very well. However, great co-pilot, gets you halfway there, helps you draft, helps you come up with alternative versions, right? Really huge efficiency gain, especially in generative AI. Adobe also has a generative AI product that is so interesting in the back end. Really about, you talk about trust and personalization. They're hand in hand. When a brand can show that they know a buyer, even in B2B, specific enough to deliver relevant experiences and context and next steps, that builds so much trust. But again, these enterprise level suites are only available to some companies. Other companies have to do it more scrappy, right? I come from the world of startups. If you're a Salesforce user, it's really interesting what they want the marketer to do with generative AI. Oh, sorry, with agentic AI. Because as generative AI creates content, agentic AI is like AI with agency. It's AI that takes action. You can kind of build these digital coworkers. And yes, this sounds as apocalyptic as it is, because it's as exciting as it is scary for job replacement and, needing to upskill and redeploy workers, as Mark Benioff, I believe, said in his recent press about having, we used agentic AI to reduce our customer service workforce by X thousands of employees. That was the headline. And it's true
Mhm.
because these customer service workers were doing very kind of easily replaceable responsibilities. Now, what is missing in that headline that a lot of people are missing is that he said we redeployed these people. We redeployed them into marketing, into sales, into here. So that's where there's at least a little bit of like there's a safety net. But in general, agentic AI is going to replace a lot of the kind of marketing operational work that is happening manually behind the scenes. And so what Salesforce wants marketers to think about is how do we use that to do more, to reach more people at that individualized level. The promise of personalization has not been gained fully because of the lack of, again, our ability to scale. Our data isn't clean. Our customer data warehouses are getting there, but the underpinning data is the thing that allows us to be scalable and have AI work on our behalf. We are kind of a long way until I think we're ready. Don't tell Salesforce to do that. A lot of companies are, but that's the promise. That's the direction that these behemoth tech companies are wanting marketers to move in. They want us to look at our jobs as creative advocates for the customer, understanding the market, leveraging what humans can do, which is emotion, context, nuance. And they want us to use the technology to enable them to scale. Big, big, big results. A customer of one, a market of one. These are all phrases that we've heard of. This is where AI, I think, is going to really, the rubber is going to meet the road with AI. It's going to be used to create automated versions of our coworkers that can build our segments for us. They can actually talk to customers if we give them an appropriate chat interface with the right backend data. They can build campaigns in these tools up to the point where we don't need someone to build a workflow. We just tell the bot to do it. What does that mean for our skills? What does that mean for us? It's an interesting time to be a marketing employee from a buying point of view. The buyer is now wondering, am I talking to an agent? Am I talking to a robot? Or am I talking to a person? I think I've seen things like escape routes become a new facet. If you and I have probably been stuck in these like chat back and forth online with agents that are not answering our question. Giving us a way to escape to a human is actually a really great tip to kind of get people. And let me just bang the 0 button on my phone to talk to the operator. The version of that for the AI age is getting out of a chatbot into a human's hands. So giving your users that ability to extract themselves, but also being transparent about where we as a company are using AI in our process. You see a lot of companies right now looking at ethical AI. Do we publish our guidelines around how we're using AI for content? Like Adobe has a lot to say about the content authorship and protecting creative. I mean, this is their core business, right? But if you are a company that's leveraging AI, even in your sales and marketing processes, you got to be upfront about that. I think it's important because otherwise what we're risking, what we're saying to customers is that our synthetic relationships are more important than our real ones. And I think we have to be careful that we're not just automating everything. We are increasingly getting our humans into the process where necessary. Maybe that's not at the beginning, by the way. Maybe that's much later in the process, and we have to be okay with that. It means letting up control a little bit.
It's a very interesting transition because going faster with AI, trying to do more, now we're transitioning into, are we trusting what we're seeing right now, even if it's a human? And then where is the borderline to build that type of trust? Who is open, telling that this is AI and I'm fine with it as a human to do this because later I'm going to be met by a person. So where do you see that type of borderline of building transparency, building that type of trust between AI done stuff and humans in marketing?
Yeah, here's the thing, it's really hard to tell when AI has had a role in anything. And it's not inherently bad. I think an AI generated piece of content might be better than a human can do in some cases. When you're giving it the right prompts, when you're feeding it the right data, I love using it to just make what I do better. People always say things like it's a co-pilot. It's meant to be with you on the journey. And I do agree with that. I think that a lot of times we can leverage it to surface trends, to analyze our data in ways that allow us to be very like, let's use these tools. They are available to us. Let's not say AI inherently is some evil force thing. Where it gets sketchy, I think, is when we are passing things off as ours or real when they're not. I see a lot of, like, for example, tech that leverages AI. If you're, for example, you're in a buying process, right? One of the new questions that vendors have to answer is very much about this idea of where are you leveraging AI tools, so third-party AI tools in your product now? And if so, how are you protecting my data and my customer data or whatever the proprietary enterprise level data that we're trusting here? that's an interesting new thing. I mean, there's a lot that goes into transparency and disclosure about that. We're seeing it now when it comes to AI literacy initiatives, where companies are actually teaching their customers how AI works in their product, where it's being used. We have to give users, for example, feedback loops. You know, when you get like a search result or a chatbot result and it says, this was AI, how did we do? And you get that, give that thumbs up or thumbs down. That's so important. Got to give humans a chance to feel like they've got a feedback loop, right? So not only do we have to be radically transparent and disclose when AI is generating content, we have to tell them when we're using it.
Yes.
Has it been used in this chatbot? You know, is there an escape to a human? I think when we have a world of synthetic content, really, our biggest, and this is like so old school that I can't believe I'm saying it, not the very least on a podcast to other very talented marketers listening, our customers, our employees, our people, our humans. We cannot replace them. We cannot AI generate. Although you could do a pretty decent job creating an AI version of me. It's really funny. We've played with it. Some of my video team and I have played with some tools for voiceovers, and there's some really crazy stuff that you can get me to say that I've not said, which is scary. Do you know about this whole my ADHD is completely in full force today, Laura. Do you know about this whole like safe word you're supposed to do with your family? Like, because I'm a public figure, there's a million photos and videos of me on the internet, and it's really easy to pull my voice and my picture into a tool and have it spit out, hey dad, I need you to wire $1,000 to this company because I'm done. I've had to come up with a safe word that I will never call my parents and ask them for wire transfer or sensitive information about me without the name of our childhood pet, which now, if you know my childhood pet, you can steal my identity. Have fun. It's a fascinating, weird time to be in the world of media.
This is
You can be replaced, you know, but I think our people, my point is, I think our people, our customers cannot be replaced. And we have to prioritize and incentivize our customers to really help us earn that trust on our behalf, whether that means getting them to write more reviews, whether it means getting them to show up to more user groups, getting them to be more advocates for us, filming more video, or turning them into, you know, experience maker champions like Adobe does. There's a lot that we can try that is not new school tactics, very old school, but it means more in the age of the new school around AI because of how synthetic everything is getting.
Yep, absolutely. Katie, for the upcoming future, what are you the most excited for AI coming into this picture? Because there is so much of scary stuff. But what is it that excites you right now for marketing and AI in marketing?
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of doomsday about AI, and I have plenty to say about that. I have plenty to say about its environmental impact, about our reliance on it, and the way that it takes away our brain power, the way that our kids in school are leveraging it and skipping the work, and what that means for us, a well-informed society. The other thing, a negative side I'll say, is that we need a lot of literacy around it. The way that we need more media literacy, so that people understand the content they see. We need to create literacy among everyday people around AI, and so they understand the kind of risks. But because of AI, it's actually, I'm a big fan of, you know, Sun Tzu, chaos is an opportunity. Because of AI, it's actually created an opportunity for brands that are leading with their a human voice, their empathy, integrity. It's actually creating an opportunity for them to excel. There's plenty of companies that are scam artists. We've worked for a few. You might work for one right now. I mean, no company is operating 1,000% ethically in this world. This is capitalism. Hello. But there are some companies that understand you can treat your people well, your employees, and you can treat your customers in a way that shows respect. I read somewhere that we're moving from, I hate this whole, this is dead and this is, but this, I do agree with this. We were in the attention economy where the goal was to capture attention, earn audiences, break through, get that brand recognition. And now we are in the trust economy. This is where our most valuable asset in a world of mistrust is our credibility, our integrity, and our humanity. Will you put your executives on the homepage? Yeah, that's not a new thing. But in some industries, it is an incredibly risky thing. Look at your industry, see where the levers are that you can start to kind of play with trust. I think that in some cases, AI makes us feel like we can now do anything. We can do everything. We can be everywhere. We can be all things to all people because now we have this thing behind us to scale our content, to scale our efforts, to come up, right? We can't lose sight of marketing basics, which is that we cannot be all things to all people. You have a great episode with April Dunford. Go listen to that. She's brilliant on positioning. And what she always talks about is just, who are you serving? Who are you for? And who are those people? And I think that in this age, marketing is now this, it's always been the steward of the customer voice. You know, we are stewards of the customer. We are representative of what they need in our business. But these days, we have to also be stewards of that trust that a customer will eventually place in us. We have to bake that into our process. I don't know how you measure trust beyond marketing working, beyond people actually listening to your podcast, beyond people being willing to engage with you. I think trust is a sticky thing that we can't measure, but that we need to consider part of our charter. If we have if we have a what was it called, like a crisis as a brand, we talk about crisis comms. Usually there's this like playbook of like things to do after a crisis, right? Issue a statement, you fire the person who could be scapegoated for this, and everyone kind of moves on. In B2B, it's a little different. In B2B, I feel like because the high stakes, these are high risk decisions, these are embedded products that take years to either rip out or replace or whatever, trust is lost fast and it takes a very long time to rebuild. If, if a major organization that you've spent millions of dollars with drops the ball, there are now hundreds, if not thousands, of people in your organization that will never do business with them again. Do you know what I'm saying? The integrity of B2B matters, and marketing need to not overpromise. It's a really surefire way to break that trust, and it takes forever to gain it back. It takes a long time to build back trust. So I think we need to be willing as marketing to kind of point out where there's flaws in the journey, where we're having a disconnect between vision, promise, and reality, whether that be in the sales process or further downstream in the product. Marketing has to be that frontline advocate. Not to say everyone will listen to marketing, but maybe if you buy Dream Data, you can prove the value of all your marketing, and then your CFO will trust you again, right? Laura, you didn't pay me for that, but that's a great right. What you guys do is all about trust, building trust between.
It is. And the interesting thing you're saying, like looking into the C-level executives, when you bought a tool and you were promised for it to do one thing and it didn't do it. And let's say you did not lose the job, but you did lose, first of all, your trust into that this type of problem can actually be solved by a tool. And then the next step, am I going to get to buy another tool as well? Because it lost the trust of our CFO. It lost the trust of me, of the whole team. So what are we going to do to move past beyond that?
Rebrand.
It is a
Rebrand is the answer.
yeah, but then again, it's a problem for all of the companies in the same bucket as well. So if you have a rotten egg of all of your competitors, and all of us do, so there is a part of market that is getting to be disappointed about what has been sold to them and it has been lied. And then you are also a part of that kind of extra skepticism. Can they deliver on this? This is very, very exciting. And then you better hope that whoever is buying from you and comparing you with other brands would rather choose another company, if they don't choose you, another company that you trust as well. I see that over and over again. It's so exciting.
Right. And this is where I think who you partner with matters. Shout out to all the partnership people out there. When you can build community of other partners around your solution, it signals to the market that you can be trusted, that your tech has been verified, validated. You can go into Chat GPT and make a short list of vendors these days. And that's what companies are doing. So once that is now how companies build their short list, how are you influencing that? A lot of times it has to do with who has the loudest brand, but who's in the most places. And that has a lot to do with partnerships, with ecosystems. You're so right about that. And one thing I'll say too about companies who, are in the space that are bad actors, you're exactly right. Every single vertical has that kind of bad actor. And I encourage brands to look at that as an opportunity, because now if you can be the more reliable, the more trustworthy organization, if that can be your differentiator, it's like, it shouldn't be, but it is. And I would play that up. I would lean heavily on that. I would lead more with third party, with customers. I would lead more with proof points. Again, this is the age of, we have to prove our value and prove that what we say is true far earlier than I think we ever have before, when there were less options, there was less pressure, there was less risk, and there was just less information out there. We need to cut to the chase, and it's got to lead with credibility. That's
fantastic. Katie, thank you so much.
Anything that you wanted to? I appreciate the chance to rant about marketing. It's one of my favorite things to do.
I would
Thank
like
you.
to continue this conversation over and over again, because there are so many topics we touched upon that are so exciting, and we got to do this.
I'd love to. You're great.
This is so much fun. Thank you so much, Katie, for your time today.
Thank you to the Dream Data team for putting this all together. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
We hope you like listening to us. Subscribe to our podcast and the ones that we have been guests on.
And if you have any feedback for us, just do let us know. And should there be a guest that you think we should be talking to, then pitch us.
We're looking forward to seeing you.